What's happening, Cucumber Squad? Right, man, I'm back. I apologize, I was away for a couple of days. I just had a whole bunch of things to do. But I'm back with more Bo, man. I hope to God this doesn't get blocked. My last 3 reactions to him have gotten blocked. I've managed to put them on Instagram and they seem to be fine on Instagram. So if this gets blocked over here, again, it will be on Instagram. But I'm really hoping that it doesn't. I don't know why other reactors react to it and they put it up and it's fine. It could be just a location thing. Could be that I'm from South Africa. I'm not entirely sure how YouTube goes about these stupid things. But hey, let's get into it. This one's called From God's Perspective. Guys, as you know, I do pause every now and again, specifically for copyright claims, right? And also to give you a bit of introspection. Also, if you don't like that, click off. You don't need to stay here and be irritated. A couple of people on my Bo Burnham reactions went all crazy because I've been pausing. Guys, do not irritate yourself like that. If you don't like something, click off. No one's holding you to this video. Click off and it's just the smart thing to do. Don't stay there and don't give me the power to destroy your day. Go about your day and control it for yourself. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. So From God's Perspective, Bo Burnham, let's rock and roll, man.
There's things that I don't want to come across in my show that I worry often come across about me, because people don't realize that it's an act up here. I don't want you to ever think that I think I'm better than people or that I think I know better than people. Anyway, sorry. Okay. This is a song from the perspective of God.
This man's irony is unreal. Don't want to irritate anyone, but I'm going to tell you what God thinks.
The books you think I wrote are way too thick. Who needs 1,000 metaphors to figure out you shouldn't be a dick? And I don't want...
Bruh, this dude is freaking brilliant. Like, I promise you this guy literally thinks like I do. Essentially. It's like, why do you need 1,000 metaphors to just not be an arsehole? It's just so simple. It's just human nature. It's part of the natural order. I don't need a book to tell me to not murder someone. You know what I mean? I don't need a book to tell me that I mustn't harm or hurt somebody. You know what I mean? It's just natural order, right? You feel that innately. It's natural knowledge, essentially. So yes, the Bible can be looked at as from a guiding perspective. Like, as you guys know, that my views on religion is that the best religion in the world is whatever you believe in. If it brings you comfort, if it brings you harmony, if it brings you hope, that's the best religion in the world. And there's no one to tell you otherwise, right? But when it comes to these scriptures, when they actually write these certain things, they write it in a sense of learning. So they're saying, okay, you're going to put them out as metaphors so that you can, it's almost always as stories in terms of learning, whether it be Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, blah, 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 blah. There's all these learnings in that kind of thing. It's great because let's not forget that the book was, religion, right, as a whole, in terms of like the Bible and that kind of thing, was actually created by the churches to control the masses going way back when, right? It is a man-made, man-written book. A lot of religious people might be against me saying that, but it's just my personal opinion, my personal belief. You don't have to share that same belief. And like I told you, I don't ever encroach on anybody else's beliefs, right? But it is a book of learning, and I kind of feel that it's not that God actually said that that's how you should go by it. It's actually a book that goes to these are guidelines for your life, which I kind of feel like is kind of better. I mean, look, wars have been created because of those books as well. I mean, like, there's more people that have died in the name of religion than in any other war else in the world. Like any other war in the world, more people have died in wars based on religion, right? But the guidance also, a lot of people hang on to those words, and again, gives them hope. It gives them some sort of relevance. It gives them a purpose, essentially. So you can never bash that, right? So yeah, I like the fact that what Bo Burnham does, though, what is so fantastic, is that he actually opens these little topics up for you to discuss, for you to talk about, and he opens up an entire debate, which I absolutely love, and that's why I usually have long videos when talking about Bo Burnham.
Watch you when you sleep. Surprisingly, I don't use my omnipotence to be a fucking creep. You're not going to heaven. Why the fuck would you think I'd ever kick it with you? None of you are going to heaven. There's a trillion aliens cooler than you. You shouldn't abstain from rape just 'cause you think that I want you to. You shouldn't rape 'cause rape is a fucked up thing to do.
What did I just say? What did I just say about murder? I literally said you don't need a book to tell you that. It's just a fucked up thing to do. You just don't do that. It's not part of the natural order. No child is born a rapist. It's environmental situations and upbringings and conditionings and indoctrinations that sort of like, yeah, you can turn down those roads, essentially. You know what I mean? When Hitler was born, Hitler wasn't a bad baby. It's as he grew up, there were certain conditions in his life that turned him into the monster and flipping prick that he was, essentially, right? So it's all about upbringing, all about situations, it's all environmental. There's a lot of variables at play, you know, when bringing up a child in terms of which road, because in the same kid, you can get a Hitler and you can get a Mother Teresa. The same kid possesses those two qualities, right? But it depends on which roads they pick. And those sort of certain things usually come in the formative years. You can't teach a kid empathy after, I think, the age of 7, if what I read is correct. After, like, from our wife's psychology books, is that the formative years, from like 0 to 7 years old, is where you teach kids like the sort of EQ in terms of empathy, sharing, all that kind of thing for another human being. After that sort of formative years are over, it becomes more and more difficult for a kid to grasp that kind of thing. So they either have a very high IQ, super low EQ, or very low EQ and super high IQ. And it doesn't mean that they don't possess both, but usually they're on two, like, you know, different sides of the spectrum, right? So anyway, it's very interesting stuff. But okay, let's roll. You shouldn't rape 'cause rape is a fucked up thing to do. Exactly.
Pretty obvious, just don't fucking rape people.
It's pretty obvious.
Didn't think I had to write that one down for you.
You see, but you're saying that it's pretty obvious, but certain things are not obvious. It's obvious to you because of the way you've been brought up. So it's obvious to us because of the way we're brought up, right? Anybody who does any sort of crimes, or any sort of politician that is like a dictator that writes any sort of laws, never ever thinks to themselves that they're not doing something good, that they're not doing something great. They don't write laws saying, oh, I know this is bad. They justify it as good, essentially. So that's their thing. So sometimes things do need to be written. Sometimes things do need to be taught in that manner because it's evident to you now because you've been taught that way. But when you're a kid, if you were taught a different way, it wouldn't be so evident to you. Know what I mean? It's very easy to manipulate a young mind.
Didn't think I had to write that one down for you. I don't think masturbation is obscene. It's absolutely natural and the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
You make my job a living hell. I send gays to fix overpopulation. Boy, did that go well.
Hey.
You're not going to heaven. Eat 1,000 crackers, sing 1,000,000 hymns. None of you are going to heaven.
I kind of also feel that this might be from an atheist perspective as well. I'm not entirely sure if Bo Burnham is an atheist, because that's kind of like an atheist perspective, is that there's nothing above us, there's nothing below us, essentially. So look, I'm not religious. I'm not religious in terms of like the traditional sense of religious. I'm actually a spiritualist. I do believe that there is a greater power that has created all of this. I'm very much a believer of the fact that this could not have come by chance, just from the mathematical, like, sort of from a mathematical perspective of this, if you're looking at just the odds of all of it, like the odds of a Big Bang, creating this amount of perfection is like 1 in a couple of billion, if not a trillion. And if you had to like scale that down into a much sort of easier sort of like thought, like sort of theory to sort of comprehend it, is if I had to give you a deck of cards of 52 cards and I had to pick, and I had to tell you you've got one chance and one chance only to pick the Queen of Hearts, and that is it. You've only got one chance. The earth is created if you pick the Queen of Hearts, or the earth is not created if you don't pick the Queen of Hearts. And we're talking about a 1 in 52, and the chances are you're not going to pick it up. You're not going to pick the Queen of Hearts on the first chance, right? When you sort of scale that up into the billions, and then to get this amount of perfection in terms of the natural knowledge, in terms of like just everything that happens around, like how does a sunflower know to turn towards the sun? No one teaches that. It's in its DNA. It's in its genetics that when the sun rises, the sunflowers turn towards the sun. That's natural knowledge that cannot be explained, right? And that's my personal perspective. Is that I actually think that there is something to this. There's something to this great thing. Like whether there's a man in the sky that has heaven and whatever else. I'm not for that particular concept. But I do believe in energy, and I do believe that there is energy out there, and I do believe that when we leave our physical self, we go as energy. And I kind of believe that we enter as energy to fulfill a purpose, and then when our purpose is fulfilled, we leave, and then we might come back to fulfill a different purpose in a different body or a different vehicle, being a body or in terms of animal, human, whatever. But that's just my personal thing. I could go on this forever, but anyway, let's rock and roll.
None of you are going to heaven. You're not my children. You're a bad game of sim.
Okay, bro.
You shouldn't abstain from pork just because you think that I want you to. You can eat pork, because why the fuck would I give a shit? I created the universe. Think I'm drawing the line at the fucking deli aisle?
On that particular thing with pork, with religion, I know that the Jewish religion don't eat pork, and also the Muslims don't eat pork as well. From that perspective, going back, I've actually read something. I'm not saying I stand corrected, but I did read this. Is that actually pork was actually made to like not eat? Somehow it sort of got sort of like convoluted and conflated into it being a religious thing, but it was more about that there were the higher elites and the royals that used to eat pork, and they used to throw away the leftovers down a chute for the peasants, and then the peasants used to eat that, get sick and die, right? And that's where the whole don't eat pork because it's a dirty meat. It was dirty meat because it was thrown down a chute. There was no sort of hygiene or anything like that, and there was bacteria that infested. But then the poor people would eat them and then die, and then that somehow became a religious construct. I'm not entirely sure in terms of which religion that was specifically that I read about that, but that was kind of like one of the theories of why that sort of got sort of like fused into a religious thing of like not eating pork because it's a dirty meat, and it's like God telling you to not eat pork, or in the Jewish religion, God saying like you can't eat the like milk and meat together. Essentially, I am not entirely sure why that is the case, and I grew up in a Jewish household. Go figure. But yeah, that's just something interesting. I know this video is long and someone's going to be like bent out of shape, but hey, like I said, click off, let's go.
Fucking deli aisle. You argue and you bicker and you fight. Atheists and Catholics, Jews and Hindus argue day and night over what they think is true. But no one entertains the thought that maybe God does not believe in you. You pray so badly for heaven. knowing any day might be the day that you die. But maybe life on earth could be heaven. Doesn't just the thought of it make it worth a try? My love's the type of thing that you have to earn, and when you earn it, you won't need it. Oh, my love's the type of...
My love is the type of thing that you have to earn, but when you earn it, you don't need it. I like that. But what he did say over here...
die, but maybe life on earth could be heaven. Doesn't just the thought of it make it worth a try?
So the praying, when people when you're saying that, people pray and doesn't make a difference. You can pray as much as you want, you can eat as many crackers, you can sing as many hymns and things like that. That I personally believe people don't do that for the fact that there is a God up there. I know that the actual the surface level thing that people will tell you is that, yes, I'm praying to God, yes, I'm that, but that's kind of like a mass type thing. So it's like, when you go, that's why it's called a mass. Like you go and you got a whole bunch of people that are doing the same thing. I personally feel that when it comes to like God or conversations with God, I kind of feel that a lot of people would prefer to be preached to through a proxy, so through a priest or through somebody, right? So they have their conversations through a priest and to God, essentially, so that I kind of feel like they kind of isolate them from the responsibility of having to face God themselves, essentially. So, when going to church and going to the confession booth and going through a priest to get forgiveness and things like that, if you believe in God and you believe that God is with you and is always forever with you, you can have those conversations yourself. But this is where I kind of feel that this is more a psychological thing. Praying is a psychological thing because it makes you feel better that you are doing something. So it's based on a comfort perspective for me. It's not to say that what you believe in is not out there. I don't know. Nobody knows, essentially. But from a psychological perspective, you feel better when you do that, because that is what you have been taught through tradition to do, right? And it's all okay. There were people in the Holocaust that used to pray in Auschwitz, and that actually, the act of praying and the act of hope, the act of believing that there was a God that was eventually going to free them from this oppression and this horror, right, is what kept them going day in and day out. Just read a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl, and you'll understand what that means. Hope is a very big thing, and it doesn't matter. You can be hope in anything, in absolutely anything, and be hope in a teddy bear. If you believe that teddy bear is going to make it with you through the Holocaust, that gave you power, that gave you strength, right? Read the book. It's absolutely fantastic. So I just kind of feel that the psychological perspective of praying, the act of praying, psychologically does something for you. It gives you comfort, essentially. But I kind of feel that when it comes to sin, we don't tend to want to have that conversation with God directly. We want to do that via a proxy, which I kind of think is very weird. Like, why do we not hold that accountability directly, sort of with God? Why does it have to go through a proxy? Because you kind of want that redemption through somebody else, instead of like, it kind of absolves you in having that conversation directly with God, essentially. So I think if you're connected with that higher power, if you're connected with that being, there's no need to do anything with a proxy. They don't need to talk. You don't need to talk to God through that person, essentially. That's personally just my belief. But anyway, that's just me. I've got some really interesting books on this that you guys can read.
Make it worth a try. My love's the type of thing that you have to earn, and when you earn it, you won't need it. Oh, my love's the type of thing that you have to earn, and when you earn it, you won't need it. I'm not gonna give you love just 'cause I know that you want me to.
And you wouldn't need to, essentially. I think the whole idea of loving yourself is kind of that's the sort of like loop that you should be finding yourself in, is that if you want my love, you got to love yourself, which essentially is kind of like, it detaches him from that equation. It kind of says that if you don't love yourself, I can't love you, meaning that you have to see yourself as something great, or else what are you looking up to me for, essentially?
If you want love, then the love has got to come from you.
Good Lord, I literally said it just before he said that. I love that. This man's brilliant. I've always said this man is absolutely brilliant with the way he does this kind of thing. And it's not even that he actually holds these beliefs. All he's doing is he's throwing out the debate baton in a comical way, and you've got to pick it up, and then you've got to know what, like, you've got to define it for yourself, right? It doesn't mean that anything is. It doesn't mean that your opinion, my opinion, or anybody else's opinion is correct. I can't sit here to profess to know anything about these sort of topics, because all it is just it's perspective. It's how I see it. It's my perspective from my life, from my upbringing, from my journey in life. Right? I can only sit from there. This is why, sort of religion and believing in something is very dear to somebody, and this is why to every single person, whatever they believe in means something to them, and this is why I specifically say all the time, the best religion in the world is whatever you believe in. It brings you comfort, brings you harmony, and it brings you hope. That's the best religion in the world. That's my personal opinion. I love you all. Please stay safe, please stay healthy. Someone's going to get bent out of shape because this is a very long video, but I love you all. Peace.